budget for Proposition A. I don't particularly have any other comments on it, but certainly happy to answer questions.
We're increasing the budget for the combi.
I think you are, because it's in Prop A as well as in Prop C. And
A while back, I recall vaguely some idea to use some of these grant monies in another effort, like, for example, Pacific, improvement. Do they have that flexibility to be used in another related transportation effort? And so the idea was, let's try to, if we had been doing some of this improvement on Pacific, we would have public restrooms, let's say. Anyway, so that's sort of the question.
Well, actually, if you look at Proposition C, there is a $2 million proposed investment there for FY16. But to answer the question, kind of like it's, as I said in my opening comments, which is about, balancing services and investment. And but in any event, Pacific Boulevard is budgeted here in Proposition C.
If I could just expand upon that, because I don't know, I don't think Jan even wants to go there, but it's very evident that when you look at Prop A, Prop C, you're talking about substantial dollars going to the dial-a-ride and the combi service, and to the tune of close to $1 million for dial-a-ride and $600,000-700,000 for the combi service. So just that alone, that's $1.5 million or so. Those are a lot of dollars for transportation services to move people around the city, whereas some of those dollars, and that's where the difficult decisions come into play, could be used for infrastructure improvements, et cetera, pavement management, et cetera. So we will, as we looked at previous budgets, looked at the council's desires and what the council has been funding in the past, have approached this budget in terms of continuing that level of service that you have provided. But again, there's going to have to be some tough decisions made sometime to allocate the resources a little more balanced, in a balanced fashion, so that you have that infrastructure investment that you need.
So let me ask you this, John.
Thank you.
So it's going to cost us $655,000 to have the combi. Or
Yes.
that's just how much we are allocating for that transportation system.
That's how much we're allocating, and we believe that's how much it's going to cost.
Wow. And we are reducing the taxi, right? The dial A, right? To 500.
I
1,000.
don't believe we're reducing. I think we,
Yeah.
Let's go to Prop A again.
if you go to Prop
Yeah, it's on
A,
Proposition A.
yeah, you have $500,000 plus, I believe there was a Prop C allocation, wasn't there, for Dollar?
I don't think so. I think what we said we would do is undertake a study with respect to, and so, as I understand it,
Well, in essence, what we're going to do,
yeah.
because I recall now.
I
Is
think
that-
there's a suggestion that, look, at a minimum, we can, the taxi service is virtually provided for most of 24 hours. And, the question is, I think there are neighboring cities that don't mirror that sort of
Service.
investment in that service. That's a good, for that, service. And, I think that there's probably a way to deliver it in a much more efficient manner. I think we really need to find a way to do so.
Right.
And and the budget reflects that.
And the budget reflects that.
The budget reflects a discussion on that to even, to negotiate more efficiencies in that service.
To be honest, John, sorry, Vice Mayor, $655,000, it's a lot of money for that service. So, at one point, we do have to come back and revisit this to transportation services. I agree with you. If we want to start investing, out there, we need to make hard decisions.
And I think the part where I was going to mention is a lot of the customers of Dial-A-Ride would benefit from the Combi service once they change their routes and once they're actually operating the way they should have been operating. Obviously, we have more vehicles out there now, and also we can definitely, you can look into possibly different stops. A lot of people use Dial-A-Ride, use it to go to the senior center right by Salt Lake Park, and there isn't a stop there. Actually, a resident mentioned that in public comment a couple of meetings ago. So if we were to add maybe a stop there with our Combi service, then we can definitely kind of fix the reduce the Dial-A-Ride.
No, absolutely. There are efficiencies, and I think Jan mentioned it, that, other cities don't operate 24-hour service. And that gets expensive when you start operating on a 24-hour or 7-day-a-week service. It's just real expensive. And so you have to balance the goals of the council in terms of you need to have much transportation service versus the infrastructure and the capital investment that you need to make in that infrastructure.
Certainly, we need to benchmark and look at those service levels for the Dial-A-Ride. And correct me if I'm wrong, for the Dial-A-Ride, that's who are the primary users? Are they seniors, handicapped, and so that's a little touchy, because if someone gets sick in the middle of the night, well, their option is just to get a commercial taxi, Fiesta taxi. So the dollar won't be available, so that's something to think about. But the Combi, there's more flexibility there, I think.
Yeah.
But that said, we still have to look at this benchmark to see, yes, we offer 24/7 service for the Dial-A-Ride, but what does everyone else offer? It could be a little expensive, so.
Yeah. Well, I think the Combi and the Dial-A-Ride have similar ridership. I think it's mostly seniors and mostly people that just trying to get around the city.
Yeah,
and
the
I think we
Combi
also-
pretty much, even students go to school or whatever.
And I think there was a study done, I remember, in the past, I believe it was last year, and they looked at a lot of the students actually use the Combi.
Yeah, there was a user study some time ago.
Yeah.
You also have the advent of the Uber service, and the ability of people to use that at a much lower cost. Whether that ever builds a demand in Huntington Park is probably further out than current, but it's certainly taken over a lot of cities, and it's in high demand in other cities. It takes the burden off the cities themselves to provide the service. So.
That's a good question. We have an exclusive contract with Fiesta Taxi. So is that contract preempt Uber or the like to operate in the city? I don't know, that's a legal question, or you would have to look at the actual contract, see what it says, but.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, that probably does not. There are some communities that are specifically attempting to ban the Uber transportation mode, unless it's specifically written into the codes. I think it would be very difficult. And then there's also the Uber folks. The company is trying to challenge the ability to use the streets to transport individuals. So currently, I would say the answer is no.
Okay, thank you.
In Prop C, you see also you see the investment here, as we talked about, for Pacific Boulevard. And if there are not any other questions, because I think we touched on this page before, I'll move forward. Measure R, another MTA. By the way, I just wanted to say, because when I talked about revenues and it talked about some of the assumptions being made, I mentioned FY actuals. That did not